Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I like to thank the Almighty God. It is because of Him I'm able to finish and present my final research paper. Secondly, I like to thanks to my supervisor, Mrs. Dr. Rina Mulyani MPD and Mrs. Sylvia Rahayu SPD MHUM, who always guide and also help me in processing my research paper. Before we are going to the next slide, let me introduce myself. My name is Vionita Almaleona Kusnandi. I'm an English education student, 2018 from English Education Study Program, Faculty of Language Education, Ikip, Siliwangi. So everyone, this video is made for the requirement of my final project for a Sarjana Pendidikan degree in English education. So let's get started to the topic now. So my thesis is under the title Developing Vocabulary Worksheet assisted by WordWall Game website for teaching writing to 7th grade student of a junior high school in Bandung Barat with problem-based approach. So next slide. Here is a presentation outline. There is 5 topics. The first one is background of the research. The second one is objective of the research. The third one is methodology. The fourth one is the result of the research. And the last is the conclusion of the research. So let's get started to the first outline as the background of the research. So we can see from the screen that the first one is writing. Writing is one of the subjects that aims to improve student ability in academic writing using English. Writing is a complex process and most of the research literature recognize the difficulties processed by the student. By writing, students are able to communicate orally and in writing effectively by using various means appropriately. According to White and Arn, cites in Hammond 2018, writing is a thinking process which demands intellectual effort and it involves generating ideas, planning, goal settings, monitoring, evaluating what is going to be written as well as what has been written, and using language for expressing exact meaning. And according Nurkiantoro, cites in Fakhrudin et al. 2021, writing is an activity to express ideas through language media. So writing is a productive and expressive activity. So writer must have the ability to use vocabulary, grammar, and language structure. Okay, the next one is vocabulary. Vocabulary is the knowledge of word and word meanings. According quote and Chokin, cites in Triariani 2020 state that the center and the important things in language learning is vocabulary. In vocabulary, have 5 elements. There are meaning, spelling, pronunciation, word class, and structure. The researcher used 3 vocabulary elements, namely meaning, spelling, and pronunciation. And the last one is WordWall. WordWall is a platform that provides education features for facilities learning activity. According to Green, in 2018, WordWall is an organized collection for great print work on classroom wall. And according to John, Freeman, and Utami Munandar, site in Halimah City in 2015, defined the game as an activity that helps children achieve complete development, both physically, intellectual, social, moral, and emotionally. Okay, next, let's go to the next one. This is the Objective of the research. There are 4 objectives of the research. The first one is to describe the process of developing vocabulary worksheet. The second is to know the feasibility of developing vocabulary worksheet game. The third is to describe the student response toward a vocabulary worksheet game. And the last is to describe the obstacle that are faced when developing vocabulary worksheet game assisted word wall website. Next, methodology. So this research use research and development based on Wahyudi 2015 education research and development is the process of creating the validation education product. The R&D style, which refer to the step of this process, entails studying, research, finding relevant to the product to be developed, developing the product based on the finding, field testing it in the setting where it will eventually be used, and revising it to address any flaws discovered during the field testing stage. Indicators show that the product achieved its behaviorally specific goals. And then the next one is research design. The researcher used the research and development formula by Borg and Gall, which has been adapted from the step of instructional design Dick and Carey. There were 10 steps in this model, but researcher only took 9 steps. There are identify instructional goal, conduct instructional analysis, analyze learner and context, write performer objective, develop assessment instrument, develop instructional strategies, develop and select material or instructional media, design and implement formative evaluation of instruction, and the last is revise instructional activity. Next is the subject of the research. The subject of the research were the 45 students in the 7th grade from Junior High School in Bandung Barat. The first one is 15 students were taken for the preliminary field testing, and 30 students were taken for the main field testing. Next is data collection. The first one is observation. Observation is used for the researcher field note. This instrument is used to answer the research question number 1 and number 4 to know the process of developing vocabulary worksheet, and then to know the obstacle when developing vocabulary worksheet again. Okay, the next one is the questionnaire validation. So questionnaire validation is it used to know the feasibility of vocabulary worksheet is to answer research question number 2, and then the next one is questionnaire student response. The questionnaire student response is used to answer research question number 3. And the last one is interview. This instrument is used to answer research question number 1. And then the last one is the analysis technique. The researcher use qualitative data and quantitative data in analyze the data. And then the next is the result of the research. The first one is the process of developing vocabulary worksheet assisted word wall. So here are the steps in developing vocabulary worksheet that the researcher only took 9 steps because the limited time and also degree. Okay, the first one is identify the goals. By assessing needs, developer find out information about fact and the field related to the teaching material used to analyze need and raise as the basic for developing teaching material. The purpose of making product for teaching in 7th grade, it is hope student can know and remember at least 30 vocabularies in one chapter. Student can write the word correctly in 2 minutes. The second is conduct instructional analysis. Carry out learning strategies from the result of instrument information which obtained at the initial analysis stage that has been carried out on activity assessment to identify. Researcher use the problem-based approach learning method to make it easier for teacher in teaching. Researchers choose problem-based approach because learning start of real problems that occur in seventh grade student. Lack of vocabulary knowledge in student. Student were expected to be able to overcome problem well so as to form new knowledge. This method carry out as a form of follow-up as a developed effort performance appraisal to be carried out. The third is analyze learner and context, describe about characteristic student and another subjects such as teacher and school. The fourth is write a performance objective to support student ability. Researcher took vocabulary material that is widely available in book when English ring a bell, so that is easier for student to remember. Researcher pack teaching material as attractive as possible to foster student interest in the use of teaching material. The purpose of making learning product in 7th grade so that student can know and remember at least 30 vocabulary in one chapter so that student can write vocabulary is develop assessment instrument. The researcher prepare the initial design of the performance task, namely preliminary field testing and main field testing. Okay, the sixth is develop instructional strategies, implementation of performance appraisal. It is not enough just to from a performance task that is equipped with an assessment card. Instead, there needs to be a learning strategy in the performance uh, appraisal process. The researcher used a problem-based approach learning method. The learning strategy is contained in a lesson plan with learning objective. Students can understand and mention the object they are around them. The seventh, develop and select material or instrument instructional media. Researcher select learning material after everything is arranged properly. The tools and material used can be determined, namely a smartphone or computer and website page. The eighth is design and implement formative evaluation of instruction. The formative evaluation of learning is carried out with a preliminary field testing containing 15 students from class 7F. And the last is device instructional activity. After implementing of preliminary field testing, based on the data, validation state that the product can be used for a main field testing with small revision to the product. After that, researchers continue to main field testing containing 30 students from class. Okay, next one is the visibility of the developing vocabulary worksheet game. There are the tables that the researcher gets from the questionnaire validation. It's from the validator 1 as a supervisor 1, and then the validator 2 as a supervisor 2, and then validation from an English teacher. So the visibility score from validation, validator and validation from English teacher were above 89%, which indicate very valid media based on Basmala 2013. So it means vocabulary worksheet is visible and worthy to use and apply by the student at school. Then the next one is the student responses toward a vocabulary worksheet game. Here are the table, the student response score to the quality of a vocabulary worksheet. We're divided into two stages as preliminary field testing and main field testing. Both field testing were both 83%, which indicate as a good media based on Basmala 2013. So it means the vocabulary worksheet game get a good responses from the students. And then the next one is the researcher obstacle in the flow vocabulary workshop game. The first one is internet network instability. Internet provider of error. So researchers have to restart the internet provider frequently. And then the last is not all students have smartphone because there are some students who don't have smartphone, and the school also prohibits students from bringing smartphone when they're in teaching and learning. Therefore, researchers take advantage of existing facility in school, namely in the form of a computer laboratory and school Wi-Fi that can support the student learning process. So far, although there were some obstacles, the researcher still can handle. And then the last one is the conclusion of the research. The first one is the process of developing media went smoothly, although there was some revision. In the end, the media, namely vocabulary worksheet game, was able to apply and worthy using after a very long process. The second is vocabulary worksheet game is feasible and very valid to apply at school. And the third, the student response towards vocabulary worksheet game is good. Most of the students give a good response to the vocabulary worksheet game. They agree that vocabulary worksheet game is able to increase their motivation and learning writing vocabulary, providing a varied exercise. And the last is although there are some obstacles in developing vocabulary worksheet game, but it is still able to handle and went smoothly. In the end, the media, namely vocabulary worksheet game, was able to apply and worthy use after the very long process and face difficulties. And thank you. I think that's all from my presentation. I do really apologize if I have a lot of mistake. And thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.